In this tutorial, you'll build a small website from scratch using HTML and CSS. These lessons are designed so that even someone who's never used a computer before can follow along. Here's the site I'm going to teach you how to build. It's a website called Steamtown. HTML is a programming language. With HTML, you can write code to make the computer show a simple website like this. And then if you add some code in the CSS language, the website will look nicer. When you create these things, you are programming. You are telling the computer what to do. All these websites are created by programming, also called coding. To write code, you need to create a file first. A file is like a piece of paper in your computer. You can write code in it. A website has several of these files. They all need to be inside a folder in your computer. Create a folder anywhere on your PC, like on the desktop. I'm going to call mine my website. To create it, right-click, New, Folder, type the name and press Enter on your keyboard. Make sure the name has no spaces. It might cause problems in the future. If the name has several words, you can use dashes. Now, there are a few ways to create files. The easiest one is to use a code editor. I recommend one called Visual Studio Code or VS Code. It's the most popular one. Now, to install VS Code, you can go to this website and then select your operating system, Windows, Linux, or Mac. Click on the installer here and follow these steps. Now you need to open the folder you just created in Visual Studio Code. So you need to open Visual Studio Code, and now you can just drag the folder into the window. There you go. Or you can also go to the menu and select File, and then Open Folder, and select your folder. If you don't see this tab with the folder, that's called the Explorer section, click this icon to show it or hide it. Great. Now it's time to create an HTML file. Any name is fine as long as it ends in .html. And just like the folder, the name must not have spaces. So click on the button that looks like a file with a plus in it, the New File button, and type your file name, like my-file.html. Press Enter and you will see it appear in the folder. It will also show up in VS Code. All these lines here, this is where you are going to write code. This file you just created is empty. You can write some text in it. So I'm going to write hello world like this. And now I'm going to go to File and Save. Or you can also press Ctrl and S at the same time, Command and S on Mac. And now you can check how this looks in a browser. So you need to drag the file from the folder to a browser, or right click on it and open with Google Chrome or any browser you prefer. Now, every time you change the code, you need to save the file and open it in the browser again. So if I change this to Steamtown and I save, I'm going to do Ctrl S now. I need to open it again here, and now it will load the new text. But there is a quicker way though. The browser has this refresh button, which will show the latest changes. So I can do welcome to Steamtown and save and refresh here, and then we will. Now let's add a header. Headers are pieces of text that look a bit bigger. To create one of these, you need to use something called the h1 tag. So I'm going to go back to Steamtown and I'm going to do h1. Visual Studio Code completed this for me, so I'm going to put this inside, in between the two tags. And these symbols, you need to use those when writing tags. And you can write more text too. So I can do welcome. There we go. And save. And now I can refresh and there we go, the text is a little bit bigger. H1 and /H1 are tags. You need to write them exactly like that, otherwise you will not get this bigger text. So this is fine, this is wrong, and this one is also wrong because the / symbol goes only on the second tag. This is how you can create a header for your website. You will use different tags throughout the course to create different elements. Now let's create a button. For that you need to use the button tag. So I'm going to do less than button, and then if I click enter, Visual Studio Code will complete it for me, and inside of it I'm going to do join us. There we go. Save, refresh, and here's the button. This is just another tag like the H1 tag that I used before. So that's how tags work. They have text inside these symbols, and the second one also needs a /. HTML works by using tags all the time. That's how you create a website. Now, clicking this button doesn't do anything yet. You will make it do something using JavaScript soon. Now let's add an image. To add an image, you need to use the img tag. This one is just img. There is no end tag /img. Save and refresh, and nothing happens because you need to tell the browser which image you want to show. And to do that, you need to add something to the tag called source or src. Source is an attribute. So if I do source equals picturecat.png, I'm telling the browser, show the image picturecat.png in here. So let's try it. Download any image you want, or you can use this one that I'm gonna leave in the pinned comment down below. And right, so I'm gonna save image. There we go. And it's gonna be in my downloads folder. And there we go, it's Warrior. And now drag the image from its location into VS Code. Now, this will add it from the downloads folder to the folder you are using for the project. So if you check that folder, now it will have that image as well. Yeah, so it's here. And you need to write the full name of this image in the source attribute. This image is called warrior.webp. So I need to do source equals double quotes warrior.webp. There we go. Save and refresh here, and there we go. The image is there. Now in your folder you might not see the full name. The picture could be warrior.webp, but your folder might only show warrior depending on your computer settings. But you can see the whole name on VS Code Explorer tab. In here we can see that it's warrior.webp. And you need to write the full name of your image in the source attribute, like this. Now, your image might be huge and not fit well on the page. In that case, you can add another attribute called width. Width indicates how wide you want the image to be in pixels. So I'm going to set width to be 300, like this. So it's going to be 300 pixels wide. There we go, it's a bit smaller now. Now, using source, you can add two image tags, but with different source values. And that way you can display different images. So you can get another image like this one. I'm gonna download this other one, which you can check in the pinned comment down below. And this one is Steam Enemy. And same as before, I'm gonna go to downloads and I'm going to drag it to VS Code. And I'm going to add a second image tag. And in source, I'm going to write this image's name. And I'm going to say width is 300 as well. Save and refresh. And there we go. That's the other image. Right, so I have a bit of text in this website. I'm gonna replace welcome with a longer text. Sometimes when you're programming, you will see text that starts with Lorem Ipsum. Now, Lorem Ipsum is a text in Latin that doesn't really mean anything. Designers and programmers use it all the time when they need to check that things look good and everything is where it should. So you can search it online and paste it, or in VS Code, you can get it by typing Lorem and then press enter. So if I type Lorem here and press enter, VS Code will type it for me. And if you want 100 words, you can type Lorem 100, let's say, and those are 100 words. Or you can do Lorem 1000 and so on. Now, your text might look like a very long line, like this. Well, there is a way to fix this in VS Code, which is to enable word wrap. So go to the cog icon and then settings and type word wrap in the search bar. You will see that it's off. You can change it to on and then just close that page and the text should now be wrapped and look nice like this. Now, this text is fine, but on websites, blocks of text are usually inside the tag called P from paragraph. That way, you will be able to edit them in different ways later on. Let's wrap this text in P tags. So just like the ones before, you need an opening tag and a closing tag. So I'm going to do P and less than, and there we go. VS Code typed this one for me. I'm going to get it out from there. When you save and refresh the page, you won't notice any difference, but that's fine. Adding P tags doesn't change how the website looks for now. Now, even if you write text in separate lines, the browser will still display it as a single line. If you want to add line breaks, you need to use a tag called BR. So you can add the BR tag a few times in your paragraphs. Now this one is also a single tag. You don't need to write /BR. So I can add it in a few times, like here and maybe here, save and refresh. And there we go. Now it has separated the text in separate lines. And you can use them to create a bit more space. So if I add a few line breaks here and save, you will see there's some space in here now. A website can have as many elements as you want in any order you like. It can have 30 images, 50 buttons, whatever you prefer. Just add them to your HTML file. So let's add a bit more text to Steamtown. I'm going to add 3 more paragraphs using Lorem. So in between the images, I'm going to create a paragraph, P, enter, there we go, and inside I'm going to type Lorem, there we go, that's a paragraph, and then a couple more down here, so P and Lorem, enter, and same thing again, P and Lorem, there we go, and save. Now we got a bit more text, and you can also see how the shape of the website is changing. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Now, there are a lot of tags for showing things on screen, but there is one though which is invisible. You won't see anything in the browser, and if you are not careful, you can even destroy others. This is called a comment. You can write them by typing these symbols and then anything you want inside. Whatever you type in there, it won't show on the page. Now you might be wondering, okay, so why do they exist? Well, with comments, you can write notes that the people that is looking at the website will not see, but these are useful to you or other developers, like this. So maybe in the warrior image, I add a comment and I do, there we go. This image is too big. So I had to set the width at 300 and save. But they can be dangerous because you might accidentally put HTML elements inside the comment and the browser won't show them anymore. When that happens, it's called commenting out code. So I can comment out one of the images and check the browser doesn't show it. So I'm going to remove this and set it back as it was. And there we go. You will see comments all the time when you are programming. Now, on websites, you might click on things that take you to a different page. Those are links. And those are created in HTML using the anchor tag. This tag is just the letter A. However, that code doesn't work yet. You need to tell it which page you want to go to. So let's create another page in the project. So just like you did on VS Code before, new file, type a name like second-page.html and enter. And you can write whatever HTML code you want in it. In this website, Steamtown, I'll write about the town's lore. So I'm going to add a header, h1, and there we go. I'm going to do town lore. There we go. And then I'm going to add a paragraph and just a lorem for now. I might change it in the future. Now that you have two HTML files, let's link them using the anchor tag. I'm going to do a close, that's an anchor tag, and I'm going to write discover the Steamtown lore. There we go. And now this tag has an attribute called href. And in this attribute, you need to write the name of the other HTML file. I want to take people to that page. So if I refresh now, there we go. And you can see discover the Steamtown lore and click there. And now it takes me to the other HTML file I created. Now you can also add a few BR tags after the anchor tag, and this will push the images down. So if I go back and refresh, there we go. It looks nicer now. And in this second page, you can navigate back to the first page by adding another anchor tag. So this time I need to do a, and href is going to be the other file, so my-file.html. And I can, in the text, I can do go back, just like this. Save and refresh. And now I click here, it takes me to this other page. I can see go back, so I click here and there we go. Now we are traveling through pages. Websites usually have these links at the top. These are anchor tags that are pointing to different pages. They look nice because they have some CSS too, but in HTML, these are just anchor tags. Now, so far, the files I've created have different names. myfile.html and secondpage.html. You can name your files whatever you want, like dinosaurs.html, sharks.html. On the very first websites, back in 1991, the main page was always an index. It was a list of all the pages you could go to with links to each one of them. So the first page was called index.html. And everyone did this for a long time. If you had websites about cars, you will get an index first with links to pages like wheels, engines, doors. Over time, people started creating websites where the first page wasn't always an index anymore, but they still called their HTML file index.html. So when you start working as a programmer and you check the code of a project you have been assigned to, there's a 99% chance that the main page will be called index.html. Now, the people who work on HTML decided that your code should be divided in two parts, the head and the body. The body is for everything that goes inside the white box, called the window. such as text, images, or paragraphs. And the head is for things that don't go inside the window. So everything you've written so far should go inside the body. It still works if you don't put it there, but in professional code, it should always be inside a body tag. So let's do that. And I'm going to cut this one and put it at the very end. Now everything that we have created is inside this body tag, but if I refresh the page, nothing has changed for now, and that's fine. Now programmers use something called indenting, which means moving everything inside the tag 4 spaces to the right. This makes the code easier to read. So I'm going to write all the content inside the body tag, and I'm going to indent it pressing Tab on my keyboard, like this. There we go. And save. Now it's easier to see which elements are inside others. That's what indenting is for. The code works just as before. And you can also indent other HTML bits like the paragraphs. So I could do something like this. And then there we go. And that looks a bit nicer. So now I'm going to create a head element over the body element. So I do head, there we go. And I'm going to write a title tag. And inside I'm going to do Steam Town. You can use any text you want. Now if I refresh, you can see that now this bit here says Steam Town. And you can also add an icon for the website. I'm going to use this image called gear.svg. So I'm going to download it. And move it to my project, gear. And for that, I can use the link tag. So I need to do link. Rel is going to be icon. And href needs to be the name of this image file. So it's going to be gear.svg and save. And if I refresh here, you can see now this little icon up here. So in the head, we are adding things that don't belong to the window, but are still parts of the website. Great, so the HTML code I have is fine, but it doesn't look nice. Now I'm going to add something new called CSS. Now CSS is a bit different than HTML. In HTML you have tags, and in CSS you have styles. There are several ways to write styles, but the best one is to put them in a separate file. So now I'm going to create a CSS file in VS Code. And you can use any name you want as long as it ends in .css. So I'm going to call mine styles.css. And I'm going to write all my CSS code here. Now let's connect my file.html with styles.css using a link tag. So in the HTML file, I'm going to add this line in the head. I'm going to do link. There we go. Now it's rel style sheet. That's fine. And in href, I'm going to add the name of the CSS file. So styles.css. There we go. And save. And now in the CSS file, I'm going to write p and then curly braces, and then color, blue, and semicolon. There we go. If you refresh the page, you should see that all the paragraphs are blue now. So this bit tells the browser show all the p elements in blue. That's a CSS rule, also known as a style. Now let's add another one. I'm going to add a style for the h1 element, and I'm going to say that the color will be brown. So I'm going to do h1, curly braces, and color, brown this time, and semicolon. There we go, and refresh, and there you go. Now the H1 tag is brown. So these things here are selectors, and you can have P, H1, button, and they tell the browser which elements you want to change. And the color is a property. It tells the browser how you want things to look. You can use other properties like background color. So I'm going to change the background of the paragraphs using background color. And I'm going to say it's going to be, let's say, light gray. There we go. Save and refresh. And now the background color for all the paragraphs is light gray. Now, I don't like the blue text for Steamtown, so I'm going to remove all that. And I'm going to add a style for the button. So I'm going to do button. It's going to be brown, and background color, let's do light gray again, and refresh. And this button here now has color brown and background color light gray. Perfect. Now, there is a group of properties that you can use to create borders around things. These properties are border width, border style, and border color. With border width, you define the thickness of the border in pixels. Border style determines the border's appearance. It can be dotted, solid, or dash. Most of the time, devs just use solid. And border color defines the color of the border, just like color and background color. You can use any color, such as blue, brown, red, gray. I'm going to use one called Dodger Blue. So I'm going to add a border to all the images by doing image. It's going to be border width. I want it to be, let's say, 5 pixels. Then I'm going to say border style. I want it to be solid, and border color, Dodger Blue. There we go. And refresh. Now the images have this nice border. But you can define all these properties in a single line using just border. So you could do just this. Border is going to be 5 pixels, solid, and Dodger Blue. You are doing all these 3 things at once, so I can remove all this. Perfect. And if I refresh, it's still the same. Most of the time, people just write these 3 things in a single line. You can use any way you prefer. Now, in Steamtown, images and buttons have brown borders. So I'm going to change the color to be brown for the image border. And I'm going to add a border to the buttons as well. And I'm going to make it 2 pixels thick. So I'm going to do border. It's going to be 2 pixels thick. It's going to be solid and brown as well. So let's check how that looks. There we go. The button has a little border as well. And now the images borders are brown. Perfect. And you can use border radius to create rounded corners. So for the button, I can do border dash radius is going to be, let's say, 5 pixels. And now it's a little bit rounded. Now in CSS, there are many ways to place something in the middle of the page. For now, let's look at the most basic method, which is text align center. You can try it on paragraphs. So I can do P, and I'm going to do text align center. There we go. And refresh. See, now it's in the middle. And another option is to just apply it to the body. The whole website will move to the middle of the page. So now I'm going to say that body needs to be text align center. There we go. And refresh here. And now everything is centered. Perfect. Now the whole page has a white background at the moment, but you can change that using background color on the body. So I could do, let's say, background color to be green. And now the whole page is going to have a green background like this. Now, in many websites, the background is either white or a specific color. but in Steamtown, it's an image. So you can use background image for that. Now let's get an image ready for the project. I'm going to use this one that you can check in the pinned comment down below. I need to do background dash image, and then it needs to be URL, and inside this parenthesis you need to type the image name. So double quotes, and in this case is background.webp. There we go. Save and refresh. Now we have that image as the background. Now the image is there, but it doesn't fit well on the page. Now to change this, you can use background size cover. So background size to be cover. And I like to use background attachment fix. This is a property that will keep the image in place when scrolling. So if I do background attachment fixed and refresh here, now even if you scroll the page, background image doesn't move. Now when programmers talk about text, we usually refer to it as font. There are different font styles. The most popular one is font size. So I'm going to change the font size for all paragraphs like this. So I'm going to say that font size is going to be 24 pixels. Now if I refresh here, you can see that the text is bigger. The size is 24 pixels. I can change it to be, let's say, maybe 20 pixels, and now it will be a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger, etc. So I'm going to leave it at 24, and that's fine, but it hasn't changed the size of the other elements, like the H1 and the anchor. So you can add this property to the whole body, and it will change everything inside it. So I'm going to type it here. So everything inside the body will be 24 pixels big. And now, see, it's applied to everything. That looks better. Now, the button is still small though. It's not affected by the body's font size. So we need to add a separate style for it. I'm going to do font size to be 24 pixel. There we go. And refresh, and that's better. In CSS, you can add comments just like in HTML, but instead of the symbols for HTML comments, you need to use forward slashes and asterisks like this. So I can do forward slash asterisk and then another one, and inside here I can do this is a comment. There we go. And you can use it to comment out a property. So I could do this. There we go. And now the H1s are not going to be brown anymore because that property is commented out. Or you can even comment out an entire style. So if I do this, let's say I do this and this, now all the styles for the button will not be applied because they are inside the comment. Now elements can have padding. Let's add some to the button to see what it does. So in the button style, I'm going to say that padding is going to be 100 pixels. Now if I refresh here, you can see that it's now much bigger. That's padding. It's the space between the element's content, the text, and the border. Now, a padding of 100 pixels is too much in this case. So I'm going to reduce it to something more reasonable, like 15 pixels. So I'm going to change this to 15 and refresh. And there we go. That's better. Padding can be applied to anything. So I can also add a padding to the images. I can say padding to be, let's say, 10 pixels and refresh here. And there we go. The images have a bit of padding. There is a bit of space between the image and the border. Now, margin is a property that pushes things away from an element. So let's add it to the button. Now I'm going to say that margin, I want it to be 50 pixels. And refresh. Now, as you can see, there's a bit of space between the text above, the button, and the link below. So with margin, you can add space between elements. Let's apply some to the H1 as well and check how it looks. So I can do margin to be 40 pixels up here, save, refresh, and there we go. Now there is a bit more space. And sometimes you only need extra margin on one side. For example, in the H1, I want more space at the top, but I want to keep the 40 pixels margin below. So you can use margin top for that. So I can do margin top to be 100 pixels, like this. And refresh here. Now in this case, you can see there's a bit more space at the top here. If you cannot see this, refresh the page and scroll up, and you should be able to see it. So the browser applies a 40 pixels margin to all sides and then changes just the top margin to be 100 pixels. So if you need to adjust a specific margin, you can use margin top, margin bottom, margin left, or margin right. And you can apply similar properties to padding. You can use padding top, padding left, padding right, padding bottom. And if you do this on the button, it will look like this. For example, it has more padding just on the right side. And you can also use it to borders. So you can do border top, border left, right, and bottom. Now, if you apply that to the button, you will see that it only has a border bottom and a border left. Now, in CSS, you can change a single HTML element too. So let's say I want one of the paragraphs to be blue and keep the others black. So if I write this, all the paragraphs will turn blue. But I can use something called classes to change just one of them. So let's go to the HTML file and use the class attribute on a paragraph. So I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to do class, and I'm going to call it blue letters. Now in the CSS file, let's add a style. So instead of typing P or H1, let's type a dot followed by the class name. So blue letters. And I'm going to say that this one, for this one, the color is going to be blue. There we go. Save and refresh. And now only that paragraph has blue letters. All the others are still black. If you add the same class to another element, it will also change. So if I use it on the H1, so if I do, I'm giving the class blue letters to this H1 element, and I refresh, now the header is blue as well. So that's how classes work. You create styles for this class in CSS, and then you give it to any element you want. Now for Steamtown, I don't need the blue letters, so I will remove them. And I want to add a bit of margin at the bottom. So I'm going to remove these blue letters here and this class here as well. And I want a bit of margin at the bottom, so I can do that by using margin bottom on the last paragraph. So I'm going to create a class. I'm going to type here, class is going to be, let's say, last paragraph. Save, and styles.css, I can remove this, and I'm going to say that dot last paragraph is going to be, I want to have margin bottom to be 200 pixels. There we go. Now, if I scroll now, it ends up here. But if I refresh and applies these changes, now there is a bit of space at the bottom here. Great. These are the basics of HTML and CSS. You are now ready to learn JavaScript and make your website do different things. You can check this JavaScript crash course video next.